Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye Narayanam Padmabhavam Vasishtam Shaktincha Tatputra Parasharancha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Atha Asya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Atha Asya Padmapadancha Hastamalakancha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaram Anyan Asmadgurum Santatam Anatosmi Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Dhyanam Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Puranam Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetra Kripanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Hrude Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogda Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamratam Mahat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadrona Tata Jayadrata Jala Gandhara Nilotvala Shalyagrahevati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Stotirna Kalu Pandavairanadi Kaivarta Keshavaha Paracharya Vatsarojamamalam Gitartha Gandhotkatam Nanakhyana Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiye Manam Muda Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvamsinam Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Sunmanti Divya Savai Vedai Sanga Padakramo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasantam Naviduhu Surasuraganam Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Nandaito.
So in the last class, that was good, Shankar. Okay. In the last class, we were discussing the Bhakta Lakshana. The Bhakta Lakshana that we started in the 12th verse, it goes till the end of the chapter. This is something similar to the Kṣhetrajña Lakshana we discussed in the second chapter. You'll see that there is some commonalities. Now, this Bhakta, basically, as much as he is, like devoted to the Lord, the more he is devoted to the Lord, the more and more these Bhakta Lakshanas show up, and he sees more and more the same God in every person he encounters with. Every person, every animal, every being for that matter. So, Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitraha karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukka sukakshami starts there. So he does not hate anyone because he loves God. The bhakta, what is the bhakti? Bhakti is intense love. Intense love is called bhakti. And when he is so intensely in love with Paramatma, he sees the same Paramatma in everyone, and therefore that intense love shows towards the other beings also. Adveshta, there is no hate for him. In any sarvabhutanam, every being, it is not just a person. We all love our children, we love our parents, and all those. Those are kind of transactional love. It is not really a what you call the love or the bhakti that Krishna is describing. So, and I also discussed that some of these, there are about 25 different characteristics of a bhakta. They are all kind of not totally independent. They are mutually inclusive. If you have follow one or two, the others will also follow through. For example, in this verse, nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukka sukakshami. Once a person does not think of himself, this is mine, this belongs to me, then there is a less chance of him hating anything. So because he sees the identity between himself and that other being, or the identity between the other being and the Paramatma, and therefore these are all kind of related characteristics. So once you, it does not mean you you become indifferent. Adveshta, not hating, but he says maitraha karunaha. You have to develop, this person develops friendship to other people. So many times we kind of become indifferent towards some people we have not known. No, this bhakta makes sure that he recognizes that other person also. Santushtaha satatam yogi yatatma dridanischaya. Santushta means he is extremely content with whatever he gets. And mayarpita manobuddhihi. His entire mind is devoted to the Lord. This santushta, we all have wants and needs. Now, needs is acceptable. Wants, if you want to practice this want, then we see the other being as different from me. Then the santushta, it is not there. Then there is not even adveshta, because you see something different from me, there is a scope for hating. So adveshta and santushta, they are kind of related. Now in here, we discussed last time about, in the context of need. Now we all need food. There is nothing that we can avoid there. That's the sharira porshana. In order to keep the body going, you need the food. Now, the yogi or the bhakta, what does he do? He does not really go seek a food that he relishes, he wants. Whatever he gets, he will be happy with that. And there are three kinds of practices called the ajagara vritti, which is one. Madhukara vritti is the second, and uncha vritti is the third. I think Madhukara and uncha are almost identical. Anyway, this ajagara vritti is this bhakta, the yogi, sits in one place. If he gets food that day, he will eat it. If he doesn't get the food, Krishna Arpanamastu, this is what you want me to have today, and he's happy with that. That is ajagara. Ajagara is a very large snake. It has it has no ability to move. It just sits in one place. And like that, this bhakta or the yogi sits in one place. If somebody comes and drops some food, he will eat it. If he does, nobody comes and gives any food, he is happy with that also. That is the ajagara vritti. This madhukara vritti is something like, the bee sucks the juice from the madhu from the flowers without in any way hurting the flower. the flower is kept intact, and the bee sucks the honey from the flower without hurting it. Like that, those who practice this Madhukara Vritti, they don't cause violence to anything or anybody in order to get the food. Even to the extent, they don't pluck a fruit from the tree. They just, what if some fruit is fallen off the tree, if they get it, that they will go in search of that food. It is different from the Ajagara Vritti. So if he gets a fruit, he will eat it. Now this Uncha Vritti is something similar but also different. Uncha Vritti is this person, he goes to the fields, paddy fields or wheat fields or whatever, and they have processed the food, the rice or the wheat, etc. And there are some leftovers here lying here and there. He picks one or two even grains of the grain, and he comes and he, maybe he has to cook. That cooking has some violence associated with it. Even the processing of the food has some violence associated with that. So this Uncha Vritti has some violence compared to the Madhukara Vritti. So these are the three various kinds of practices, the yogis practice to get the needed food, the food needed for keeping up their body, and they are santushta. Whatever is available in that practice that they do, they are happy with that, whatever they get. So Satya Mayarpitana Mano Buddhi, that means he has offered himself, his mind and intellect to the Lord, and he is a bhakta, he is dear to me. And the next one, Yasman no dvijate loko, loka no dvijate chayaha, harsha amarsha bhayod vegaihi muktoyaha sasame priyaha. This, irritation in the mind. He does not cause irritation to anybody, agitation to anybody, nor is he agitated by somebody else. So this is a characteristic of the mind. This Santushta Satadam Yogi, as much as it is a bodily function associated, this Yasman no Dvijate Loko, it is associated with the behavior of the mind. And whether Harsha, Amarsha, whether he is happy, delighted, or he is not delighted, he is still the same equipoise. That such a person is very dear to me. Anafektaha shuchirtakchaha udasino gatavyataha sarvaramba parityagi yomadbhaktaha same priya. He has no expectations. Apeksha is to expect something. Anapekshaha is no expectation of anything. It kind of goes with the santushta. Whatever food comes, he will eat it. Udasinaha gatavyataha. He is indifferent, but not indifferent to other people. He is indifferent to whether he gets something or not. Gatavyataha, that means he has no worries. Sarvarambha parityagi. Arambha is karma in one way. So Sarvarambha parityagi, he gives up karmas that have no value in terms of reaching the God, that identification with the God. Such a bhakta, he says, he is dear to me. Dona Krishnati Nadveshti, Nashochri Nakanchati, Shubha Shubha Parityagi, Bhaktiman Yaha, Same Priyaha. He does not hate, he does not feel delighted, he does not expect anything, he does not worry about anything. See, when he has offered his mind, Mayarpita Mano Buddhi, when he has offered his mind to the Lord, there is no scope for any kind of irritation or shochati worries or in himself. So the Krishna says such a person is very dear to me. This is where we stop. We'll continue with the next verse. Samaha shatraucha mitrecha tatha manapamanayoho shitoshna sukha dukkeshu samaha sanga vivarjitaha. Samaha shatraucha mitrecha. Shatru is an enemy, mitra is a friend. He is equanimous in a friend and foe. He does not differentiate between a friend and a foe. It kind of goes with that adveshta sarvabhutanam. And so tata mana apamana yogo. whether somebody honors him or dishonors him, he is not worried about that. Na shochati. He just treats both of them as it's only transaction behavior that has nothing to do with love for God, and therefore he is indifferent to that. Shita ushna sukha dukkhaeshu samaha. Shita ushna, heat and cold. Sukha dukkha is happiness and sorrow. All these things he takes in this pride. These are all the in what is described in this verse is the dualities of life. Friend and enemy is a duality. Mana, apamana, honor, dishonor is a duality. Shita, ushna, sukha, dukkha. So he remains undisturbed with any of these dualities. Sangha vivarjitaha. So he is indifferent to attachment because he is not attached to a friend or foe or mana and apamana. He is able to be equanimous and equally disposed to all these dualities is what is described in this verse. Fairly simple, not much explanation here. One who is equally disposed towards a friend or a foe, as well as honor and insult, heat and cold. This is all possible if he has renounced all attachments. If I have attachment, then I am subject to these dualities. But having removed Sangha Vivarjita, having gotten out of this attachment, he has conquered the dualities. Okay, I need someone. Suchitra, please repeat after me. Samaha shatrau cha mitre cha. Twice.
Samaha shatrau cha mitre cha. Samaha shatrau cha mitre cha.
Tatha mana apamanayoho.
Tatha mana apamanayoho. Tatha mana apamanayoho.
Shita ushna sukha dukkeshu.
Shita ushna sukha dukkeshu. Shita ushna sukha dukkeshu.
Samaha sangha vivarjitaha.
Samaha sangha vivarjitaha. Samaha sangha vivarjitaha.
Samaha shatrau cha mitre cha. Tatha manapamanayoho. Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu. Samaha sangha vivarjitaha.
Samaha shatrau cha mitre cha. Tatha manapamanayoho. Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu. Samaha sangha vivarjitaha. Samah shatrau cha mitre cha. Tatha manapamanayoho. Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu. Samaha sangha vivarjitaha.
16, 17, and 18. Go ahead, sing that. Kṣhetra.
Anapeksha suchirtakshaha. Udasino gatavyathaha. Sarvarambha parityagi. Yo madbhaktas same priyaha. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti. Na shochati na kankshati. Shubha shubha parityagi. Bhaktiman yassa me priyaha. Samah shatrau cha mitre cha. Tatha manapamanayoho. Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu. Samah sangha vivarjitaha.
Tulya nindastutir mauni. Antushto yena kenachit. Aniketa stiramatihi. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Tulya nindastutihi, equally disposed to insult and praise. Mana apamana, basically the same thing he is repeating here. Tulya nindastutihi, that equanimity or equally disposed to insult and praise. Mauni santushtaha yena kenachit. He is modest or restrained, always contented in whatever comes his way. Yena kenachit. This is a very beautiful expression in Sanskrit. Whatever comes his way, he is happy with it. This Ajagara Vritti we talked earlier, that applies here. So he is happy, whatever Mauni means, he is Mauna. Mauna is, there are two aspects of this Mauna. I'll talk about this next later on. So Aniketaha Stiramatihi, he is detached and indifferent from himself. Aniketaha, because indifferent from himself means Niketa is housed, being housed. Aniketa means he doesn't have a house. So Stiramatihi, but he is happy with that. Bhaktiman Naraha, such a devotee, me Priyaha is dear to me. So he who is equanimous in praise and criticism, content with anything that comes his way, is not attached to home and steady-minded and full of devotion. This Aniketaha is not attached to your home. That person is dear to me, is being described. Now, one who treats praise and criticism equally is a Tulya Ninda Stutihi. Being so, and he is a Mauni, one who has control over his speech. The Mauna has two aspects to it. One is a vocal behavior, another is mind behavior also. You see, Mauni, even if I don't use my speech, if I am really thinking in my mind all the various kinds of things and all, that does not make me a Mauni. Mauni has to keep the mind also quiet, not going from subject to subject to subject. So Mauni has two really aspects to it. But anyway, control over his speech, that goes a long way in keeping the mind quiet, because it's our speech that gets us into trouble so many times. And if we keep our speech in control, we will have kind of the mind will be equanimous, will be quiet. So his content is whatever is available to maintain the body. Aniketa is one who does not have a permanent place of residence. We see in India, we see there is a practice of naming a house, Niketana, Shanti Niketana, Sukha Niketana, something like that. So this Niketa is being housed. Aniketa is one who does not have a permanent place. Such a person is Thiramati, of resolute intellect, and he is very dear to me. Now, this Aniketa is very beautifully described. See, you have jewelry in a jewel box. So the jewelry has a Niketa, has a house. Now, how do you define this space itself? The space itself is Aniketa. There is nothing that is in our transactional plane. Where do you find a place or a space for the space itself? The space is Aniketa. Now, in the transactional sense, I said, you go beyond it. Space is contained in the Atma. When you are Atma, at the Atma level, there is no Niketana for the Atma. Atma is the Niketana for everything, whereas there is no Niketana for the Atma. So in that sense, when a person gets to the level of, or the, graduates himself to the Atma level, then he is Aniketa. That we have to practice in order to be a devotee of the Lord. That is the expectation of Krishna. A devotee does not pride in any place. Wherever he is, where is the Niketa for the Atma? So the Atma does not have any place of its own. Like that, a devotee does not have a place of his own. He is not attached to any place. Tulya Ninda Stutihi Mauni. Suchitra.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. tulya ninda stutihi mauni. Tulya ninda stutihi mauni.
Santushtaha yena kenachit.
Santushtaha yena kenachit. Santushtaha yena kenachit.
Aniketaha stiramatihi.
Aniketaha stiramatihi. Aniketaha stiramatihi.
Bhaktiman me priyaha naraha.
Bhaktiman me priya naraha. Bhaktiman me priya naraha.
Tulya nindastutir mauni. Santushto yena kenachit. Aniketaha stiramatihi. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Tulya ninda stutir maunihi. Tulya ninda stutir mauni. Santushto yena kenachit. Aniketah stiramatihi. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Tulya ninda stutir mauni. Santushto yena kenachit. Aniketah stiramatihi. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
17 to 19.
Yo na hrishyati na tveshti, na shocati na kankshati, shubha shubha parityagi, bhaktiman yassa me priyaha, samau shatrau cha mitre cha, tatha manapamanayoho, shitoshna sukha dukkheshu, Samasanga vivarchitaha tulya nindastutir mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa sthiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Bhaktiman, go ahead. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Okay. Ye tu dharmyamrutamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana matparamaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha. So, tu ye shraddhadanaha matparamaha. Now, Krishna is expecting here that in this, at least in these 6-7 verses from 12:13 to 12:19, those who have conviction in this and they are attaining, in order to attain, they have conviction in the various characteristics as well as conviction in attaining to me. Idam yatha uktam dharmyam amrutam pariupasate. So what has been described in these 6 verses, yatha uktam dharmyam, it is all in the line of dharma, for attaining the Paramatma. See, dharma is, you can say, is a process in this context. So there is a process for everything in this universe, and therefore, in order to be extremely dear to the Paramatma, I have to follow a process. That yatha uktam, that process is what is described in these last 5-6 verses. And amrutam, this is this dharma of attaining to the Paramatma is amrutam, is immortal. That is, once a person attains to this, he has no rebirth. Pariupasate, so he accepts and follows these instructions of dharma like nectar. Bhaktaha te ativa me priyaha. Such devotees are extremely dear to me. So this is the dharma, this immortal dharma that is described, looking upon me as the supreme goal and endowed with conviction and devotion. such a person is very devoted to me or dear to me. So this dharma is described in these last 6 verses. This is the prerequisite for immortality. In order to get the transcend samsara, in order to transcend samsara, these are the prerequisites. So I see just like the Atma pervades everywhere and Atma in everyone is the same, that has to be cultivated by the people who are devoted to me. That is his expectation. So practice this dharmyamrita, the nectar of dharma. This amrita is described in different ways. In the context of these various steps described, that is the nectar, that is the nectar of dharma, that is the immortal dharma. Practicing that, a person attains to immortality with total conviction. They are dear to me. Yathoktam paryupasate. Worship just as instructed in these 13 to 19, verses 13 to 19. Adveshta is a practice that I and you can practice, but it also becomes the worship of the Lord. That is what he is saying. Upasana is to worship. He worship in these ways, well, like be developing friendship. All these equanimity, all these are worship of him. If you worship this, you will become immortal. The devotees who take up to these instructions with conviction, such a person is very dear to me. And being dear to means what? The Atma of the Krishna and the Atma of the Paramatma, they are now in the same, they are the same anyway, but even in transaction, they show the same behavior. That's the basically the meaning of this last verse. Fairly simple. Yetu dharmya amritam idam.
Yetu dharmya amritam idam. Yetu dharmya amritam idam.
Yatha uktam pari upasate.
Yatha uktam pari upasate. Yatha uktam pari upasate.
Shraddhadhanaha matparamaha.
Shraddhadhanaha matparamaha. Shraddhadhanaha matparamaha.
Bhaktaha te ativa me priyaha.
Bhaktaha te ativa me priyaha. Bhaktaha te ativa me priyaha.
Yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhanamat paramaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha.
Yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhanamat paramaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha. Yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhanamat paramaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha.
18 to 20.
Samashatrau ca mitre ca tatha manapamanayoho shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samasanga vivarchitaha tulya nindastutirmauni santushto yena kenachit aniketasstiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhanamat paramaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha.
Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishnarjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayah. Hari Om. Okay, so with this, we conclude the 12th chapter. Very short and beautiful chapter that culminates. This is the, as we discussed in the one of the previous classes, this verse, chapter 7 to 12 form the description of the Paramatma. And of course, there is some interaction of the what we discussed in the first 6 chapters is the Tat, the Jivatma is described. And in the 12th chapter, 7 to 12th chapter, the Paramatma is described. And here and there, in describing the Paramatma, how the Jivatma can transcend to Paramatma is also described here and there, and that is taken up more in a more concrete fashion in the verses 13 to 18. So we have concluded kind of the 2/3 of the Bhagavad Gita now. We have understood what the Jivatma is. We have understood what the Paramatma is. And the next step is to get to the Paramatma, how the Jivatma can appear as Paramatma. Paramatma is the reality, Jivatma is only a state. Now, how can this Jivatma, that is a state, can transcend to Paramatma, that is the reality? That is what, and what are the factors involved in there? The physics of this transition from the Jivatma to the Paramatma is being described in the next 6 chapters, 13 to the 18. We will discuss this after the recitation of these 3 chapters that we have been practicing all along. Let me put up the schedule for the So we have chapters 10, chapter 10, Setu, Josna, Radha, and Narsimha and Shanta. And chapter 11, Venkatram, Asha, Uma, Shanti, Satya. And chapter 12, Hamsveni and Suchitra. I will close this. Then we will start with the 10th chapter. Setu, you can begin.
Om Sri Krishna Parabhamane Namaha. Sri Mad Bhagavad Gita Ada Dasamodhyayaha Vibhuti Yogaha Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya Eva Mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatteham priyamanaya Vakshyami hidakamyaya Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam namahashayaha ahamadihi devanam mashinam cha sarvasaha yomam ajam anadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram asam mudam samarteshu sarva papai pramuchyate buddhi jnanam asam mohaha shama satyam damashamaha sugam dukkam bhavo bhayam cha bhayam eva cha. Ahimsa samata dushtihi tabodanam yasho yashaha bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva pradakvidaha matta eva pradakvidaha mahashaya sapta purve chatvaro manavastada madbhava manasa jata esham loka imam prajaha etam vibhutim yogam cha ममयो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकम्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः अहं सर्वस्य प्रभो मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विताः मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणाः बोधयन्त परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं दुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन माम् उपयान्ति ते
तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थम् अहमज्ञानजन्तमः नाशयाम्यात्मभावस्तः ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता अर्जुन उवाच परं ब्रह्म परं धाम पवित्रं परमं भवान् पुरुषं शाश्वतं दिव्यम् आदिदेवमजं विभुम् आहुस्त्वां ऋषयः सर्वे देवर्षिर्नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रवीषि मे सर्वमेतद्धृतं मन्ये यन्मां वदसि केशव न हि ते भगवन् व्यक्तिं विदुर्देवानदानवाः स्वयमेवात्मनात्मानं वेत्थत्वं पुरुषोत्तम भूतभावनभूतेश देवदेव जगत्पते वक्तुमर्हस्य शेषेण दिव्या ह्यात्मविभूतयः याभिर्विभूतिभिर्लोकान् इमान् स्वं व्याप्य तिष्ठसि कथं विद्यामहं योगिन् त्वां सदा परिचिन्तयन् केषु केषु च भावेषु चिन्त्योऽसि भगवन्मया विस्तरेणात्मनो योगं विभूतिं च जनार्दन भूयः कथय तृप्तिर्हि शृण्वतो नास्ति मे मृतम् श्रीभगवानुवाच हन्त ते कथयिष्यामि दिव्या ह्यात्मविभूतयः प्राधान्यतः कुरु श्रेष्ठ नास्त्यन्तो विस्तरस्य मे अहम् आत्मा गुडाकेश सर्वभूताशयस्थितः अहम् आदिश्च मध्यं च भूतानामन्त एव च
आदित्यानामहं विष्णुः ज्योतिषामहि अंशुवन् मरीचि मरुताम् अस्मि नक्षत्राणाम् अहं शशि वेदानां सामवेदोऽस्मि
Something happened, Radha. I think she got out of. Are you there, Radha? Oh, Madi.
रुद्राणां शङ्करश्चास्मि वित्तेषो रक्ष
Can you come back, Radha? Sorry, continue.
Yes. Did you not have talk?
Okay, continue. Radha, continue.
Should I start from the beginning?
Yeah, where you continue, just 20 seconds verse.
रुद्राणां वेदानां सामवेद देवानामस्मि वासवः इन्द्रियाणां मनश्चास्मि
Bhutanam Asmi Chetana. I think her line is having a problem, it looks like. Go ahead, Jairam, you continue.
रुद्राणां शङ्करश्चास्मि वित्तेशो यक्षरक्षसां वसूनां पावकश्चास्मि मेरुः शिखरिणामहम् पुरोधासां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिं सेनानीमामहं स्कन्दः सरसामस्मि सागरः महर्षीणां भृगुरहं गिरामस्त्रेकमक्षरम् यज्ञानां जपयज्ञोऽस्मि स्थावराणां हिमालयः अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः उच्छेश्रवसमश्वानां विद्धि माममृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम् आयुधानामहं वज्रं धेनूनामस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणामस्मि वासुकिः अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो याद सामहं पितॄणामर्यमा चास्मि यमः संयमतामहम् प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कलयतामहम् मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहं वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणाम्. Am I continuing to the next one or? पवनः पवतमास्मि रामः शस्त्रभृतामहम् झषूणां मकरश्चास्मि स्रोतसामस्मि जाह्नवी सर्गाणामादिरन्तश्च
मद्यं चैवाहमर्जुन अध्यात्मविद्या विद्यानां वादप्रवदतामहम् अक्षराणामकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वसामासिकस्य च अहमेवाक्षयो कालो दातहं विश्वतोमुखः मृत्युसर्वहरश्चाहम् उद्भवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्तिश्रीवाक्चर्चा नारिणां स्मृतिर्मेधा धृतिः क्षमा बृहत्साम तथा साम्नां गायत्री छन्दसामहम् मासानां मार्गशीर्षोऽहम् ऋतूनां कुसुमाकरः द्यूतं चलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् जयोऽस्मि व्यवसायस्मि सत्त्वं सत्त्ववतामहम् वृष्णीनां वासुदेवोऽस्मि पाण्डवानां धनञ्जयः मुनीनामप्यहं व्यासः कवीनामुशना कवी दण्डो दमयतामस्मि नीतिरस्मि चिकीर्षताम् मौनं चैवास्मि गुह्यानां ज्ञानं ज्ञानवतामहम् यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदहमर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यत् स्यात् मया भूतं चराचरम् नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तुद्देशतः प्रोक्तो विभूत्रे विस्तरो मया यद्भद्विभूतिमत्सत्त्वं श्रीमदूर्जितमेव वा तत्तदेवागच्छत्वं मम तेजोंश संभवम् अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्णवाहमिदं कृत्स्नं एकांशेन स्थितो जगत्। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे विभूतियोग नाम दशमोऽध्यायः।
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अतः एकादशोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच मदनुग्रहाय परमं गुह्यमध्यात्मसञ्चितं तत्त्वयोक्तं वचस्तेन मोहोऽयं विगतो मम। भवाप्ययौ हि भूतानां श्रुतौ विस्तरशो मया त्वत्तत्त्वः कमलपत्राक्ष महात्माम्यपि चाव्ययम्। एवमेतत्तत्त्वम् अनन्तं परमेश्वर द्रष्टुमिच्छामि।
आत्मानं परमेश्वर।
आत्मानं परमेश्वर, थैंक यू। द्रष्टुमिच्छामि ते रूपम् ऐश्वरं पुरुषोत्तम। मन्यसे यदि तच्चक्यं मया द्रष्टुमिति प्रभो। योगेश्वर ततो मे त्वं दर्शयात्मानमव्ययम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच पश्य मे पार्थरूपाणि शतशोतसहस्रशः नानाविधानि दिव्यानि नानावर्णाकृतीनि च। पश्यादित्यान् वसून् रुद्रान् अश्विनौ मरुतस्तथा बहून् यदृष्टपूर्वाणि पश्याश्चर्याणि भारत। इहैकत्स्नं जगत्कृत्स्नं पश्याद्य सचराचरम्। मम देहगुडाकेश यच्छा
मम देहे
मम
गुडाकेश
देहे गुडाकेश यच्छान्यदृष्टमिच्छसि न तु मां शक्यसे द्रष्टुमनेनैव स्वचक्षुषा। दिव्यं दधामि ते चक्षुः पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम्। सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्त्वा ततो राजन् महायोगेश्वरो हरिः दर्शयामास पार्थाय परमं रूपमैश्वरम्। अनेकवक्त्रनयनम् अनेकाद्भुतदर्शनम् अनेकदिव्याभरणम् दिव्यानेकोद्यथायुधम् दिव्यमाल्याम्बरधरम् दिव्यगन्धानुलेपनम् सर्वाश्चर्यमयं देवम् अनन्तं विश्वतोमुखम्।
दिवि सूर्यसहस्रस्य भवेद्युगपदुत्थिता यदि भासदृशी सा स्यात् भासस्तस्य महात्मनः। तत्रैकस्तं जगत्कृष्णं प्रविभक्तमनेकदा अपश्य देवदेवस्य शरीरे पाण्डवस्तदा। तथा स विस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जया प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृताञ्जलिर्भाषत। अर्जुन उवाच पश्यामि देवान् तव देवदेहे सर्वान् तथा भूतविशेषसङ्गान् ब्रह्माण्डमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषिं च सर्वानुरङ्गा च दिव्यान् अनेकबाहूदरवक्त्रनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपं। नान्तं न मध्यं न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूपा। किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रिणं च तेजोराशिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमन्तं पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यं समन्तात् दीप्तानलार्कद्युतिमप्रमेयं त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् त्वमव्यया शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं ज्ञावा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वा भूतं रूपमुग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् अमीहि त्वां सुरसङ्गा विशन्ति केचित् पिता प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीत्युक्त्वा महर्षिसिद्धसङ्घाः स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः रुद्रादित्या वसवो ये च साध्याः विश्वेश्विनो मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्घाः वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे
रूपं महत्ते बहुवक्त्रनेत्रं महाबाहो बहुबाहुरुपादं बहूदरं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोकाः प्रव्यथितास्तथाहं नभस्पृशं दीप्तमनेकवर्णं व्यात्ताननं दीप्तविशालनेत्रम् दृष्ट्वा हि त्वां प्रव्यथितान्तरात्मा धृतिं न विन्दामि शमं च विष्णो दंष्ट्राकरालानि च ते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसंनिभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्म प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवासा अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः सर्वे सहैवाव अनिपालसङ्घैः भीष्मो द्रोणः सूतपुत्रस्तथासौ सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुखयैः वक्त्राणि ते त्वरमाणा विशन्ति द्रष्टाकरालानि
दंष्ट्राकरालानि
दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचित् विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गैः यथा नदीनां बहवोऽम्बुवेगाः समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति तथा तवामि नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिज्वलन्ति यथा प्रदीप्तं ज्वलनं पतंगा विशन्ति नाशाय समृद्धवेगाः तथैव नाशाय विशन्ति लोकाः तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धवेगाः लेलिह्यसे ग्रसमानः समान्ताद् लोकान् समग्रान् वदनैर्ज्वलद्भिः तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समग्रं भासस्तवोग्राः प्रतपन्ति विष्णु आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यं न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिं श्रीभगवान् उवाच कालोऽस्मि लोकक्षयकृत् प्रवृद्धो लोकान् समाहर्तुमिह प्रवृत्तः ऋतेऽपि त्वां न भविष्यन्ति सर्वे येव स्थिताः प्रत्यनिकेषु योधाः तस्मात् त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्स्व राज्यं समृद्धं मयैवैते निहताः पूर्वमेव निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन्।
द्रोणं च भीष्मं च जयद्रथं च कर्णं तथान्यापि योधवीरान् मया हतां त्वं जहिमा व्यतिष्ठा युध्यस्वदेतासि रणे सपत्नान्। संजय उवाच वचनं केशवस्य किरीटी नमस्कृत्वा भूय एवाह कृष्णं सगद्गदं भीतभीतः प्रणम्य। अर्जुन उवाच स्थाने ऋषिकेश तव प्रकीर्त्या जगत्प्रहृष्यत्यनुरज्यते च रक्षांसि भीतानि दिशो द्रवन्ति सर्वे नमस्यन्ति च सिद्धसङ्घाः। कस्माच्च तेन न मेरन्महात्मन् गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास त्वमक्षरं सदसत्परं यत् त्वमादिदेव पुरुषः पुराणः त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परं च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप। वायुर्यमोऽग्निर्वरुणः शशाङ्कः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहश्च नमो नमस्तेऽस्तु सहस्रकृत्वः पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते। नमः पुरस्तादथ पृष्ठतस्तस्ते नमोऽस्तु ते सर्वत एव सर्वा। अनन्तवीर्यामितविक्रमस्त्वं सर्वं समाप्नोषि ततोऽसि सर्वः सखेति मत्वा प्रभयं
प्रसभं यदुक्तं सखेति मत्वा
यदुक्तं हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति अजानता महिमानं तवेदं मया प्रमादात् प्रणयेन वापि यच्छावहासार्थमसत्कृतोऽसि विहारशय्यासनभोजनेषु एकोऽथवाप्यच्युत्यतत्समक्षं तक्षामये त्वामहमप्रमेयम् पितासि लोकस्य चराचरस्य त्वमस्य पूज्यश्च गुरुर्गरीयान् न त्वत्समोऽस्यभ्यधिकः कृतोऽन्यः लोकत्रयेऽप्यप्रतिमप्रभाव तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायं प्रसादये त्वामहमीशमीड्यम् पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः प्रियः प्रियायार्हसि देव सोढुम्।
अदृष्टपूर्वं हृषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे तदेव मे दर्शय देवरूपं प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास। किरीटनं गदिनं चक्रहस्तम् इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते। श्रीभगवानुवाच मया प्रसन्नेन तवार्जुनेदं रूपं पदं दर्शितमात्मयोगात् तेजोमयं विश्वमनन्तमाद्यं यन्मे त्वदन्येन न दृष्टपूर्वं न वेदयज्ञाध्ययनैर्न दानैः न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूपं शक्य अहं तु लोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीरा मा ते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावः दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरमीदृग्ममेदम् व्यपेतभिः पीतमनाः पुनस्त्वं तदेव मे रूपमिदं प्रपश्य सञ्जय उवाच इत्यर्जुनं वासुदेवस्तथोक्त्वा स्वकं रूपं दर्शयामास भूयः आश्वासयामास च भीतमेनं भूत्वा पुनः सौम्य वपुर्महात्मा दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपम्
Arjuna Uvacha.
Oh, sorry. अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपं तव सौम्यं जनार्दन इदानीमस्मि संवृत्तः सचेताः प्रकृतिं गतः श्रीभगवानुवाच सुदुर्दर्शमिदं रूपं दृष्ट्वानसि यन्नमा देवा अप्यस्य रूपस्य नित्यं दर्शनकाङ्क्षिणः नाहं वेदैर्न तपसा न दानेन न चेज्जया शक्य एवं विधो द्रष्टुं दृष्टवानसि मां यथा भक्त्या त्वनन्यया शक्यः अहमेवं विधोऽर्जुना ज्ञातुं द्रष्टुं च तत्त्वेन प्रवेष्टुं च पदन्तपा मत्कर्म कृन्मत्पदमः मद्भक्तः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु यः स मामेति पाण्डवा। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विश्वरूपदर्शनयोगो नाम एकदशोऽध्यायः।
ॐ श्रीकृष्ण परब्रह्मणे नमः। अथ द्वादशोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच एवं सततयुक्ता ये भक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तं तेषां के योगवित्तमाः। श्री भगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमाः ये
मताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः
ते मे युक्ततमाः ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवं संनियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रताः क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखं देहवद्भिरवाप्यते ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् मय्येव मन आतस्त्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवशिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः अत चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय अभ्यासेऽप्यसमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि
अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानाध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः त्यागाच्छान्तिरनन्तरम् अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रस्करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः.
Very good. Everybody is almost 98% there, and that's very nice. And we will spend another 15 minutes on just an introduction to this 13th chapter. Let me share that screen. And let's see here. Okay, we will be entering the 13th chapter, and the 13th chapter is called the Kṣhetrajña Vibhāga Yoga. What is Kṣhetra? What is Kṣhetrajña? Now, this verse that I posted here, what Arjuna Uvacha doesn't seem to be, is not in all the editions of the Bhagavad Gita. Some editions have it, some editions don't have it. I don't know whether it is put in by Vedavyasa or it has been added by some, interpolated by someone along the way. Anyway, what it makes is it identifies the various concepts or the aspects being discussed in this chapter. There are 6 entities here, and all of them form part of the philosophy. So those 6 entities are being delineated here. It's a good way to understand what is all involved in the philosophy. Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrajñamevacha etad veditum ichchami jnanam jneyam cha Keshava. So after Krishna has given all the instructions of the 12th chapter, the who is dear to him, now Arjuna raises his hand and he asks, hey Krishna, I would like to understand something. Yes, you have told me all this. Now, to become a dear friend of you, what is all involved? That is what I would like to know. He says here, I would like to understand these things. What is it? Prakritim purusham cha eva. Prakriti, that is the nature, and purusha, the being. Kshetram kshetrajñam evacha. What is Kṣhetra? Kṣhetra physically translates to field, and Kṣhetrajña, knower of the field. Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava. Jnana is knowledge. Jneya is the object of knowledge. Now I want to know something. I want to know apple. Then apple becomes the jneya. Knowing that the apple is sweet, it has a seed inside it, is the jnana. So like this, now Krishna is saying you have to know you have to be a jnani. Then I have to be jnani of what? That jneya. What are the characteristics of the jneya? We have talked Atma, we have talked Paramatma and all those things. What are the characteristics of that Paramatma? That I would like to know. So these 6 entities he has described as what is to be known. So there is not much any commentary on this. We will just describe this or we'll learn this also in chanting, and then we'll move on to the next chapter, next verse. Arjuna uvacha. You can repeat Kṣhetra. Prakritim purusham cha eva.
Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham cha eva. Prakritim purusham cha eva.
Kshetram kshetrajñam eva cha.
Kshetram kshetrajñam eva cha. Kshetram kshetrajñam eva cha.
Etat veditum ichchami.
Etat veditum ichchami. Etat veditum ichchami.
Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava.
Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava. Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava.
Prakritim purusham chaiva. Kshetram kshetrajñameva cha. Etad veditum ichchami. Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava.
Prakritim purusham chaiva. Kshetram kshetrajñameva cha. Etad veditum ichchami. Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava. Prakritim purusham chaiva. Kshetram kshetrajñameva cha. Etad veditum ichchami. Jnanam jneyam cha Keshava.
Vibhāg uvacha. Idam shariram kaunteya. Kṣhetrametyabhidhiyate. Etadyo veti tam prahuhu. Kṣhetrajñam iti tadvidaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. Sarve Santu Niramayaha. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Hari Om Tat Sat. All right, we will continue in the next class. We'll begin with this, and this is a very interesting, a lot of commentary on this. We will try to understand this in the next class.
Ramakrishna, do we have class next week because of the Parayana?
Yeah. Parayana happens in the afternoon, and we'll have the class in the morning. Only holidays we break, that's all.
Thank you.
It's an extra duty that day.
Krishnamurthy ji,
Yes,
Krishnamurthy ji,
yes.
can I just explain what happened? It kept disconnecting. Every minute it was disconnecting.
Yeah, I know, I understood
Yesterday
that.
we had a transformer blow. Yeah, yesterday we had here with electricity. I think they may be doing some work. I'm really sorry about that.
No problem. I understood that there's an
I
electric
hope I'm
problem.
very fine.
It can
And that
happen
is
to
why-
anybody.
Yeah.
It can happen to me
Thank you,
also.
Jairam ji, for filling in.
Oh, thank you, ma.
All right, we will see you in the next class, next Saturday. And until then, whatever you want to read, whatever you want to practice, do it.
Anybody has any questions?
He's my assistant. Shankar is my assistant.
He's
for
going to
that.
answer all the questions.
Okay, we'll see you.
Namaskar.
Namaskaram.
Namaskar.